Hi guys, I'm Johanna and I will be telling us about mathematics in the Dark Ages and how religion had an effect on it. So what are the Dark Ages? The Dark Ages is a term of historical periodization, traditionally meaning the Middle Ages. It emphasizes the demographic, cultural, and economic deterioration of the era. It occurred in Western Europe and following the decline of the Roman Empire. It is also known as the Migration Period and Early Middle Ages. So who needs math? Around the 12th century, Europe and Italy began to trade with the East, and Eastern knowledge started to expand to the West because of it. This expansion of trade and commerce created a need for practical mathematics, and arithmetic entered the lives of common citizens, and it was no longer just for the academic scholars. So, woohoo, math for everyone. The two main religions of this time were Christianity and Islamic. The majority of scholars were churchmen, which meant that the subject of their studies usually related to some sort of church practice. On the bottom is just a picture of what they thought churchmen would look like. So, for an example of how all this works, I'm going to tell you about Venerable Bede. It's possibly how you say his name. Not going to put you on that one. He was in charge of figuring out what day of the calendar Easter would be on. This had to be accurate because all other Christian holidays depended on that one date, so no pressure, right? He came up with a type of numeric system called Computus, which no longer exists today, but I will explain what that is in the next slide. He also had to predict Easter based on different lunar cycles, solar years, and other different kinds of religious timelines. So how did he do it? Arabic numerals did not yet exist, so he had to create his own method of numbers in the form of sign language. Kind of like doing the Macarena while juggling eggs. He did not have he did have the Roman numeral system, but it wasn't much help. On this right side, there's an example of what his numeral system would be like. He had the mental capability to formulate his dates while explaining his process to others in a way that found near universal acceptance. This is just one example of how mathematics plays a part in the Dark Ages. And this was just the beginning of everything, right? People started to give up their wealth and power for a life of Christian devotion. The medieval church demanded that every student should study math and science in the new universities. And because of the universities were self-governed bodies, which reported directly to the Pope, more academic freedom became available. So why math? Why do we need it? Why do we have it? So the rationality and order of nature was thought to be proof of a higher power. Studying physical laws was another way to know the thoughts of God, some people might say. A quote I found really interesting was, "Nature was one book written by the Creator, just as the Bible was another." I thought that was an interesting perspective to look at. And in the Dark Ages, it is hard to see how any scientific progress could have been made without the influence of religion. On the bottom is just a picture of kind of how science and religion work together. So the picture shows us that God created both scripture and nature, and scripture and nature are both interpreted by humans. Scripture is the study of theology, which is to understand spiritual reality, while nature, as interpreted by us, is science, to understand physical reality. And without physical reality, you can't have spiritual reality, and without spiritual reality, you cannot have physical reality. They just work together. So what fields were affected? all different kinds of fields were affected because of the Dark Ages. The numeric system was affected, the arithmetic was affected, geometry, and so many other places in the math world were affected because of the Dark Ages and because of people wanting to understand more about science, mathematics, and religion, how they all work together. So if this connection wasn't made between religion and mathematics, what would be different? Our religious holidays could have been completely different dates. I mean, with my example, you can show that there's a lot of science behind what day Easter falls on. And if he was a little wrong on that, our other dates could have been off too. Our number system could be different. We could still be doing sign language, or we could still be using just Roman numerals. We learned a lot from each other in the Dark Ages. And would we even have math or science in our universities if we didn't know that they worked together and that religion was part of how they got to be so involved in our education? Who knows if we'd even have them, and we'd be studying them in our university. So here are 5 homework questions. I'll let you pause the video and figure these out. And here's my works cited, where I got all my information. Thanks for watching. Hope it was semi-entertaining at least. Thanks, guys.